you're in hugging territory. Either you get hugged by a regular throw or command throw. Right now, I think one of your biggest issues right now is that you're not walking. Okay, you need to learn how to walk in this game. So continually going for dive kicks like this is essentially continually putting a piece of meat in front of a lion. Just because your character does rush down doesn't mean you have to play super fast all the time, get in there, run the offense, whatever. Ideally, if they're thinking, right? If they're thinking. I don't know if opponents are thinking these days anymore, to be honest with you. See what I mean? He's made this decision so many times where like I'm just gonna try and hold up on the situation. Okay, so welcome you resident drill enjoyers. Apparently welcome back, you resident drill enjoyers. We're gonna be doing another Cammy session. Let's see how this goes here. Okay, nice tech. Okay, already here, I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't like you doing this, because let's talk about the best case scenario. If we talk about the best case scenario here, best case scenario is that you hit them and you push them towards the corner. Now everything else is either A, you're safe, which they get to run their offense upon you, B, you're negative, which means you get punish countered, and I don't know what C is, but anyways, regardless of the situation, this is not generally the best to throw unless you know your opponent is going to try and do something. But let's even think of the philosophy behind a Honda player. A Honda player at this range is more than likely going to try and headbutt you at this range. So trying to go for this is a little bit more risky than trying to do it against, say, I don't know, like Ken or Ryu or something. Right? The dynamic is different, and I want you to be more aware of that situation there. Okay, you get headbutt or butt slam, sorry. I'm glad that you didn't drive rush here. This is what I'll give compliment when it compliments you. I'm glad you didn't drive rush here. You recognize the fact that you could not and you did not, okay? So if you clicked on this video, I'm sure you need some help. Lord knows I did at some point. But here's the thing, you want your favorite content creators to come and help you. But let's be real, they're charging like $60 per hour. You don't need that. But when I got you good. Over on this channel, I do free coaching sessions on Tuesdays and on Thursdays at 6:30 p.m. EST. So what does that look like? I essentially go over your matches. I give you tools so that you can succeed the next time you open up rank. So once again, join my Discord. Wait till I'm live either on Tuesdays or on Thursdays, 6:30 p.m. EST. Be there or be square. And yeah, I'm not your favorite pro, but I'm available. Those pros are not available. So once again, join the live, get better, and I'll help you improve. Back to the video. So here, while it is an okay dive kick, we want to use dive kick in a way where we can get better angles. And this comes from more so learning where you can press in and what strength you need to press them at. Right? Because in this situation here, you're in hugging territory. Either you get hugged by a regular throw or command throw, right? Well, me as a Manon player, that's how I think. But in a lot of cases, you're gonna get crouch jabbed like you did. You tried to do stand jab, it looks like. Yeah, you went for stand jab. You end up getting hit out of it because you weren't plus on the situation. So you want to be a little bit more mindful of how you go across pressing using your dive kick. Another thing you guys need to be more worried about is subbing to the channel, because a lot of you guys are not subbed yet. So if you guys can sub to the channel, it would be much appreciated, and it costs absolutely nothing, and you get what, free coaching? No way. Okay, so this one was a little bit better of a dive kick. I appreciate this one a little bit more because it's a little bit more spaced out. Notice how the other one, what is hitting his torso slash upper body, and you were right next to him. So because of that, it makes it a little bit more tougher to justify the action. However, because of in this one you're a little bit further out from him, I can see the fact that it is a little bit better of a situation for you. It's good that you're trying to perfect parry. We mentioned it a little bit earlier. Okay, we did it the one time. Okay, I don't mind you throwing it out there the one time, checking it out, whatever, whoop-de-whoop. Okay, throwing it out a second time, when you get a little bit higher, you're gonna notice that your opponents are gonna be ready for you to just throw it out all willy-nilly, especially because Honda is simply, all he's doing is holding down back the entire time. All he's doing is holding down back, so you want to be mindful that, like, if he's just holding down back, he can very well just press down back jab to punish you for it. Okay. So there are two options you could have gone for in that specific scenario. Option number one, you went for the same thing again. Option number one, you could have gone there, you could have gone for level 1 on reaction, or you could have gone for DP. Now granted, had you gone for DP, you would have burnt yourself out, and with the deficit that was there, it may have not been the best scenario. Unfortunately, it's one of those guess type situations, right? You got to kind of feel out your opponent. Luckily, this is only round 1 of the first set, so we still have a little bit more room to adapt to our opponent and what they like to do. Okay, he went for a drive rush command grab again, sure. With that being said, if he just gone for command grab, you wouldn't been ready, and in some scenarios you would have even tried the perfect parry. So these are the things I want you to keep in mind while playing. Okay, so right now, I think one of your biggest issues right now is that you're not walking. Okay, you need to learn how to walk in this game, and this goes for everyone. When you try to force situations a little bit too often, what ends up happening is that you end up doing gimmicky things, and you end up getting punished a lot more often than you're succeeding. Okay, unfortunate. So this is the thing again. So how you use your dive kicks is going to depend on or change up based on where you're hitting them in the body. Okay, I keep going over this lesson, but it's very important to go over. If you're hitting their torso up until around their lower chest, you know, right near the under boob, right there, right? If you hit them there, then you're more than likely going to be like anywhere between -3 to 0. Or -3 to -1, let's be specific, right? If you hit them in the footies, okay, like we play in football, if you hit them here, that's when you're plus on the situation. But the thing is, you gotta choose where you dive kick, because where you dive kick and what strength you use will vary where in the body you hit them, and where in the body you hit them depends on your plus range. So continually going for dive kicks like this is essentially continually putting a piece of meat in front of a lion. That's what you're doing right now. Unfortunately, he's only going for jabs, but really think about a world where he just starts trying to command grab you. Okay, dash parry, we get our hit, we bring them to the corner. Let's see the offense. We are afraid of too many options here. So unfortunately, because in this situation, you have to make up the difference. So what I mean by this is that because we have such a huge life lead between the two of us, right? You need to make it up by doing some sort of action. You're gonna have to take more risks. It is very unlikely they're going to go. This is just like psychology, because your opponent is thinking, okay, well, ideally, if they're thinking, right? If they're thinking, I don't know if opponents are thinking these days anymore, to be honest with you. But if your opponent is thinking, they're thinking, okay, I can tank out one situation. So ideally, you want to try and force a situation, i.e. like trying to walk up grab or whatever have you, the first time, because they're very unlikely to do anything because they have such a big health lead. Unfortunately, we decided to not press anything, and then now you just get hit. Okay. So this seems definitely more like a matchup unfamiliarity thing, where it feels like you're very afraid of Honda's options and what you can do to kind of circumvent the situation at hand. With that being said, let's move on to the next one and see how that one goes. Okay, so with that being said, let's see how this next game goes. We're doing the exact same thing again, where you're putting the meat in front of the lion. Right here, you're like, hey, do something to me. This guy hasn't picked up on it, and he still hasn't started like grabbing your joint because you're just sitting there every time. Okay. Oh, that's unfortunate. We missed our dive kick. That could have been fatal, but luckily it wasn't. Now you have to be really mindful of your meter. And so what is happening a lot of the time is that, notice what is happening here, okay? What is happening a lot is the fact that you're forcing the situation too often. Let's look at it from the beginning of the match. Who is the aggressor in all of these situations? The aggressor, right? The aggressor. Here he did something, but there again, you're the aggressor. You see what I mean? And granted, you are the rushdown character. With that being said, you do need to learn how to play a little bit slower. Right now, you're trying to play too fast, get in there, run your offense, whatever. Ooh, this goes for all Cammy mates. Just because your character does rushdown doesn't mean you have to play super fast all the time. Get in there, run the offense, whatever. When you're watching like Punk, when you're watching Do play Cammy, right? When you're watching these guys, they're walking back and forth, walking out of ranges, playing it slow. And then when they get their hit, that's when they run their offense. What you're doing here is ramming yourself into the door and seeing if it breaks. That's what you're doing right now. So if we learn how to slow down our play, right? Okay, see here, again, a perfect situation where we can play a little bit more calmer, okay? You guys are full screen from each other and we're here. Then what do? We try to spin in immediately. Nice anti-air. Now the next part of this, granted you did play calmer. I do like the fact that you played calm, but then you went back to initiating again. But off of those situations, you want to be trying to perfect parry them. If you're not going to try and perfect parry them, you gotta be trying to hit them out of it. And I know some people are going to be like, hit them out of it? Nani? Yeah, because what is going to happen is that they're going to notice that you're trying to perfect parry each hit, and then once they see that, they're going to do the L version of headbutt, which cancels early and then throw you for punish. Again, this is one of the dive kicks I was mentioning that may be a little bit too high. He's not pressing cross jab fast enough to punish you. Nice attempt here. Okay, we have one last chance. He could just keep headbutting at you, but that's annoying. Okay, I'm gonna show you how to deal with headbutt. So essentially, when it comes to headbutt, you're gonna want to try and DP this situation here, okay? So how do we do it, and how do we deal with the fact that he might just jump in on us on a off angle? You can decide to DP it. DP can be a little bit difficult. You can also try to use back medium punch in order to try and snipe it as well. Both options are a little bit difficult, but they're definitely available to you. I'll go over them in the lab section. Okay. Once again, we're just a little bit too slow. I'm not sure if it's lag or not. I'm not gonna give you the excuse say that it is lag. But with that being said, we want to be mindful of the fact that, okay, he's done for some sort of throw or grab almost off of every drive rush, and it almost is about time where we start holding up. Reason why I say holding up is because if he goes for command grab, then he just outright gets punished for it. But if he holds throw, he can technically punish you, but that's neither here nor there. Off of nearly every button drive rush cancel situation, he's gone for some sort of throw or something like that. And I think he's doing it because he's anticipating the parry. Unfortunate. Okay. Yeah. See what I mean? So when it comes to these dive kicks here, right, we gotta be choosing our spots. There's a reason why we don't dive kick all the time with Cammy, is because these angles are really hard to master, and if you're wrong on them, you get put in this type of situation. Okay, see what I mean by we're trying to walk out the situation? You're gonna try and bait. Yeah, you're not gonna try to push up. See what I mean? He's made this decision so many times where, like, I'm just gonna try and hold up on the situation. This is what I mean by looking at what your opponent is doing, what your opponent favors, and making countermeasures and dealing with it appropriately. Naturally, this is something that you're gonna have to work on, and this is for every player of the game, really, where we have to be more mindful of what our opponent is doing instead of just trying to run our own offense. Look at what your opponent's doing and cater your offense to what they're doing. Okay, it's a two-way dance. We can't just be cha-chaing by ourselves, bro. You gotta make sure you're watching your other guy, because if you're not watching your other guy, they're gonna run the offense and you're gonna be like, I don't know what to do for real. Anyways, GG's. I'm definitely going to take it over to the homework section where we can go over basic concepts. Granted, you were not hitting your parries, and I think if you were hitting your parries, it might have changed the dynamic of the matchup a little bit more. With that being said, let's head over to the homework section. Okay, so now that we're in the lab, let's go over a couple of things here. So with that being said, if you try and dive kick, what I noticed is that you were using heavy dive kick a lot, right? Now the issue with using heavy dive kick, right, as opposed to trying to use the light and or medium ones, is the fact that the heavy one goes the furthest. So what that means is that if you're playing at this range and you try and go for it, you're gonna find yourself in a lot of negative situations, right? So what I'd probably say is that ideally when you're in this mid-range here, you want to switch from using heavy to try and use your medium one, right? Because the medium one, at least at this range, will net you better results than trying to do the heavy one. Like, you'll be playing at this range quite often, so if you try and go for that heavy one, more than likely you're gonna get something negative, right? Ideally, when you're a little bit here, that's when you want to start using it. So you can't just one size fits all your dive kicks. That's something that I did notice. Okay, once again, if you're in this range here, you want to use it a little bit more often. As for round start drill, stop doing it. Round start drill doesn't net you anything. Okay, no matter the situation, you're gonna be negative. As a result of that, there's no point in feeding yourself and putting yourself here where you gotta guess throw, or you gotta guess jab, or even command throw. Instead, what I'd say is just wait and see what they want to do. Okay, with that being said, let's move on to a couple of things that your opponent will do, right? Oh, let's record this properly, why don't we? Okay, so what your opponents will either do, they'll do one of two things here. Okay, when it comes to your opponents, they will either just start trying to ram you with headbutt, and if they do that, you can punish them, right? Naturally, by perfect parrying them and then running your offense from that hit. So what your opponents will start to do is that in a lot of cases, this is not the best way to show it, but as an example, what they'll start to do is that they'll feint it. We're too close. Wow. Too slow. So essentially, you'll try and feint it, and then once they feint it, oh my goodness, how much charge? What they'll do is that they'll feint it, and once they feint it, essentially they will grab punish you, right? Granted, that wasn't grab punish, but you know what I mean. Okay, that's what they'll start trying to do to you. In order to circumvent this, we can, if you're on hitbox, this is a little bit easier. But what we can do is that when we see them try and lunge at us, we can DP it. Right? This primarily works when it comes to dealing when you have a hitbox and dealing with buttons that go absurdly far really quickly. So what you can do, hitbox users, is that you can hold the down input and then press double forward to get the input. I'm speaking and trying to do it at the same time. Right? So you double tap forward in order to get it while holding down. And that's how you get it. Okay. Granted, you don't get this on PS5 or stick users. So you're kind of on your own for your own reactions or whatever have you. But for us hitbox users, we do have this available to us. Okay. The next thing I wanted to go over is dealing with this situation here, which is where they'll do crouch jab, headbutt. Okay. So the obvious answer, right? You can naturally go for parry. This is a universal option and you can continue trying to get it. If you don't get it, you have to block, right? Because it's technically still not your turn yet. However, if you do get it, you get your combo, whatever have you, right? What you can do is that if you well time it, what you can start to do is that you can snipe them with your back medium punch like I mentioned earlier before. If you're feeling spicy, you can try back roundhouse or back heavy kick. Another option that's really good is that you can use your jump back medium punch in order to try and snipe it. And if you're able to do so, and I'm trying to do it on delay timing to give you as much time as possible to do so, right? So let's say, for instance, they decide to go for this and you're correct on this option. You can also, you can also get the super afterwards. Right? And they essentially get hit pretty hard for making a decision like that. And I think that's pretty good, especially for a situation where they just want to mindlessly go for it. So again, the options that you have available to you: back medium punch. You can try back heavy kick, but that one's more risky. I prefer the parry. You can also go for jump back button. Now again, the hit options naturally come with their own sets of risks, but with that being said, they're pretty decent options to have there. Okay, now with that being said, those are the things that I wanted to go over. Also, when it comes to playing in neutral, this is the last thing, is that when you're playing in neutral, you're trying to play a little bit too fast, right? You'll find yourself in this situation for a couple moments and then we're doing this, or we're doing this. What we need to learn how to do is that once we're in this range right here, we want to be a little bit more patient. And if you feel like you really want to stick out a button, you can stick this out. You can also stick this out. This option is pretty good for trying to bait out buttons. Like for instance, let's say the opponent goes for, or rather, I think this is a better example. If they go for like, right there you go. So it's good for trying to bait out buttons. You can use it in order to bait out buttons. You can also walk into different ranges and do that. So when you're able to accomplish this a little bit better, what happens is that the world becomes a little bit easier to manage when you're walking. Instead of trying to just dive kick all the situations, it makes it, when you try to dive kick, it just makes your life a lot harder. This is why it's used far and few in between situations and used fairly confidently. In your situation, you're putting yourself in a negative situation where you kind of have to block out the situation, which you don't really want to do, right? With that being said, I think those are the things that I want to go over. So try using this a little bit more. Try using this to check them a little bit more, and I think you'll do a lot better on the situation at hand. And again, when you're in this range, you want to use your medium punch, because if you do, you're in better situation to get better plus frames. Okay. With that being said, thank you for watching. If you're looking for more coaching sessions, they're right over there in my lovely playlist. Appreciate you guys watching. Have a good one. Peace.